Yo, what up? Preach Christ to die. Today, I'm gonna make a video. I'm coming from Romans chapter 1. And I'm starting off in Romans, because I don't have that much time. Romans 1, verse 13. And because the first beginning of Romans is Paul introducing himself back to the Romans and just giving like a greeting and stuff like that. But then we get to verse 13, he says, Now I do not want you to be unaware, brethren, that I often planned to come to you, but I was hindered until now, that I might have some fruit among you, also just as among other Gentiles. I am a debtor both to Greeks and to barbarians, both to wise and to unwise. So as much as is in me, I am ready to preach the gospel to you who are in Rome also. And I'm coming from chapter 1 because you're going to see, because of what's going on today, everything that we're dealing with, it's going to fit. You know what I'm saying? For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God to salvation for everyone who believes, for the Jew first and also for the Greek. It is the power of God to salvation for everyone who believes. For in the righteousness of God it is revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. Which means the only way to even please God is through faith. Is through faith is going through trials, or faith going through rough times, faith going through confusion. Faith is everything when it comes to God. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men. We got to read these passages slow, because it's so much into these little passages that if we just read it fast, and if we first read it for the first time, it can seem like repetitive, but it's so deep. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. Because what may be known of God is manifest in them. God says to be known to them is in them. To believe in God is in them. But they suppress that in unrighteousness so they could be unrighteous. Why? How do we know that? Because for God has shown it to them. God has shown it to them. That's why they have no excuse. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. It's saying, for since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, even the things that are invisible, the things that he has done, represent that we have a creator. And it's saying, and you put that together with the things that aren't visible, they have no excuse. Because although they knew God, see, they know God, they did not glorify him as God, nor were thankful, but became futile in their thoughts, and in their foolish hearts were darkened. These are people who say that they don't believe in God. God says that, and we all know someone like this. God said that he has put it inside of them, what we just read, to believe in him. But they suppress that like it never happened for unrighteousness. And he says that because they know God, they did not glorify him and were not thankful, and became futile in their thoughts, and in their foolish hearts were darkened. See, what happens is their thoughts, if you don't have God, your thoughts and your actions and your consciousness becomes callous, like you have a callus on your hand, and it gets harder and harder. Before you know it, you can't even feel like you used to feel, because it's been that long since you had God. Because you walked away, they chose to not believe. Professing to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the incorruptible God into an image made like corruptible man. Think about that. Professing to be wise, these people who say that they don't believe, professing to be wise, they became fools. and changed the glory of the incorruptible God into an image made like corruptible man, and birds, and four-footed animals, and creeping things. People that make these idols that they made with their own hands, and calling it their God. Therefore God also gave them up to uncleanness and the lust of their hearts. God says, you want to be like that? I'm going to give you that. He strives with men. He strives with man. He tries to woo man to come to him. He loves man, but he's not going to force man to be with him. He says, therefore God gave them up to uncleanness. He gave them what they wanted, and the lust of their hearts, to dishonor their bodies among themselves, who exchanged the truth of God for the lie. They exchanged believing in God for a lie, who exchanged the truth of God for a lie, and worship and serve the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. And I see that when I hear people say, oh, they worship nature. They worship, and like you worship in the creature. You know what I'm saying? You worship in what was created instead of the Creator. For this reason God gave them up to vile possessions. For even their women exchanged the natural use for what is against nature. Likewise also men, leaving the natural use of a woman, burned in their lust for one another, and men committing what is shameful, and receiving in themselves the penalty of error which was due. We all know what this is talking about. But I've seen Christians actually take this verse and make it say that it's not talking about men being with men, homosexuality. Not saying that these people or they cannot be saved or nothing. These are people in the context of what we're talking about who they're choosing to not believe in God. They don't want him. And because of this, they get involved in all these different passions, and choosing to just get more sinful, more with these unnatural desires. Men being with men, women being with women, and receiving in themselves the penalty of the error which was due. Which means the fruit that comes from that lifestyle, they will receive that. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over. It's like the third time he says this in this chapter. God gave them over to a debased mind to do those things which are not fitted. God, and he's not going to force you. He's going to give you what you want. If you're striving, if you love God, and you pray and you desire him, he'll give you him. But if you don't want him, and you choose to go after this, then you're going to get what you want. But you can't say you didn't have a choice. And you're like, oh, but I have these desires. Of course you do. God gave you over to that. We all have desires. We all have a sin nature. That does not mean we all have a desire to go towards something that is not right. That does not mean that we do that. And if we do that, we have an advocate with the Father. God gave them over to the debased mind to do those things which are not fitting, being filled with all unrighteousness, sexual immorality, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy and murder, strife, deceit, evil mind. This sounds like today's generation of evil. You know what I'm saying? Evil minded, they are whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, violent, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, undiscerning. We have no discerning people hardly today. Untrustworthy, unloving, unforgiving, unmerciful, who, knowing the righteous judgments of God, that those who practice such things are deserving of death, not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them. So the people he's talking about right here, they know the promises of God. They know what God has said, but they still desire to get away from that. And because of that, they get these judgments that God says that he will give to them. They're going to get what they want. And that's just the first chapter of Romans, man. It's so deep. Romans is so deep. Romans and Hebrews, two of the biggest and most important books in the Bible. Preach Christ to God.